A paedophile from Kuwait and a drunk Turkish asylum seeker who attacked a man with a bottle will not face automatic deportation. In fact, they've not even gone to prison. Hilal Dal, who was living in a migrant hotel in Bournemouth, smashed a glass bottle outside a nightclub and stabbed a man with it several times. It was a random attack, so there wasn't even any provocation or anything. He was given a 24-week prison sentence, but it was suspended for 18 months. So he won't automatically be deported. He was living at the taxpayer-funded Britannia Migrant Hotel in Bournemouth, the same hotel where another asylum seeker tried to attack another bloke with a snooker cue, but missed his sentencing hearing because he went outside to eat fish and chips. Then we've got this guy, Fahad Al-Anais, was caught sending sexual messages to what he believed was a 14-year-old schoolgirl. He's 31, he's from Kuwait, and he was reportedly living in a migrant hotel in Liverpool. Now, he claimed he didn't know what he was doing was wrong. And therein lies the problem. Some people from other cultures do not think there's anything wrong with trying to be sexually active with a child. And we've seen loads of evidence of this, whether it's the grooming gangs or even people related to people found guilty of grooming gang offences, with, in this case, a girl aged just 12 or 13 years old.
What a problem you have these days is these young girls that are dressed up, i.e. mini skirts, stuff like that, and they're going into the clubs. And they're ending up going with blokes and stuff like that. They're waking up next morning and they scream, rape. Or groomed.
Yeah, they don't get it, do they? It's just not a big deal to, certain people, is it? The Kuwaiti paedophile didn't go to prison either. He was sentenced to 8 months in jail, suspended for 24 months, ordered to complete 300 hours of unpaid work and 25 rehabilitation activity days. He was issued a sexual harm prevention order and ordered to sign the sex offenders register for 10 years. He was also told to pay 272 quid in costs and a surcharge. Well, we're probably paying that for him, aren't we? The judge in that case told him, "You are very lucky today not to go to immediate custody. In this country, we take these offences seriously." Well, I'm sorry, but we don't, do we? Because if we took these offences seriously, not only would these people be deported, but men from cultures with completely different values to our own wouldn't be allowed to break into Britain across the English Channel every single day.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just live in credit. Whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponise against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward, and that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
get the thoughts of my panel. We are joined this evening by GB News superstar Will Kingston. We've also got journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee and journalist Jonathan List. Thank you very, very much. Great to see you all. Will, I'll start with you. So, two pretty shocking cases there, neither of whom are going to get automatic deportation. What's going on?
Well, it's a choice, isn't it, Patrick? Every single one of these incidents, I should say them, atrocities, is a choice. And it's a choice that the government has made to prioritise ideology over the safety of the British people. If they wanted to prevent these sorts of accidents, or I should say deliberate attacks, they could. They could wind back the legal framework which keeps these people in the country. They could be harder on letting them into the country in the first place. They choose not to do that. Whenever we see this, we should stop thinking, oh dear, what a tragic accident, and we should start saying, to your point, this is a choice to let people who come from radically different, in many cases awful barbaric cultures into the country so they can continue and make this culture similar to the one that they've come from.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's just two cases. We talk about cases similar to this quite regularly on this show. We have to change the rules, surely, on automatic deportation for some of these people.
Absolutely. I think the rule here is that there's a bar beyond which you can deport, but these two cases fell below that bar. Now, that's got to go. Absolutely. You're quite right, Will. That framework has got to go. But these are pathetic excuses. The man didn't know... I didn't know I was doing wrong. I'm a Kuwaiti asylum seeker. In Kuwait, no one can have sex before they're married, so he absolutely knew he was doing wrong. What he meant was, there was I gather, a parents' group, one of the adults had pretended to be a teenage girl, and that's how they had entrapped this man. What he meant was, I didn't actually know I was talking to an adult man. I thought I was talking to a 14-year-old girl.
I didn't know I was going to get caught.
I didn't know I was going to get caught. That's exactly the point. And the other guy has smashed another guy over the head with a broken bottle, and the only reason he didn't meet the bar is because he was convicted of a lesser crime. Now, that's just a matter of luck, because that person, that victim there, could have suffered far worse injuries. The charge would have been much more grave, and he would have been convicted for a longer sentence, and therefore he would have met the bar.
Yeah, indeed. John, what do you make of that excuse by that man there? It's not the first time we've heard it, to be fair. It's, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise I wasn't supposed to be engaging in sexual activity with a 14-year-old girl.
Patrick, as I've said to you many times before, when people are tried with offences, they will use any excuse they can to get away with it. And one of the most common ones is, my culture made me do it. That doesn't mean that we agree with that and say, oh, right, well, if your culture made you do it, that means your culture must be as bad as you are. It means that people are trying to get out of something.
OK, no, that's a good point. Right, so to just be clear on this, to viewers and listeners, so you think that he was lying about the fact that he thought it was OK to talk to a 14-year-old girl.
I don't...
Look, as opposed to...
Well, I don't know. I don't have access to his brain to see if he was telling the truth or not. But what we do know is that in Kuwait, as has already been pointed out, what he did was illegal there as well. What this Turkish guy did was, hey presto, illegal in Turkey too. So when Will says that it's, you know, these are barbaric cultures, which I find monstrously offensive, well, guess what? These things are actually not part of their culture either. They're not legal in those countries either.
Is that offensive, or is it fair enough to say that actually there are cultures where trying to be sexual with a child is basically fine?
No, it's common sense. So many of the cultures that do come to this country are barbaric, Jonathan. It's offensive to say that a culture like Afghanistan, for example, where now women aren't allowed to read in public, is not barbaric.
Well, that's not Afghan culture,
again,
that's the Afghan government.
Jonathan, we've talked about it.
Oh, my goodness.
Now,
if you patronise me one more time, Will, on this programme, I swear to God.
But let me point out... No, I'm just going to point out one thing. Even though in Kuwait you actually have to be married to have sex...
Yeah.
I do think that the legal age for getting married is 15. So there is a grey area here, but that's not a grey area in this country.
To answer your question, it is not rocket science that if you import people that come from third world countries that have different views towards women, that have different views towards violence, it is more likely they are going to bring those views here. That is common sense. Anyone with half a brain can understand that.
I think that he might know your common sense. I think it's actually what you say is just completely racist. Turkey is a candidate member for the EU. It's not a third world country. You may disagree agree with its government, as I do.
Well, why
it's
would
maybe
you
not a
give us all
third world
asylum
country.
then?
Kuwait is richer than we are per capita. That's not a third world country either. We're not talking about Afghanistan right now.
From those countries?
Well, that's a perfectly legitimate question to ask, and that needs to be discussed on a case-by-case basis. Clearly, what's happening in Turkey right now is a massive degree of government repression. Again, I don't have access to this man's files. If he says that he's in danger because of his political views, and there are a lot of
third world.
Patrick, there are political prisoners in a lot of countries. Doesn't make them third world. That's a mark of social and economic development.
But we're getting off the beaten track here. That particular guy got a bottle, he smashed it, and then he attacked another person with it. Now, that's like attacking a person with a knife. That is a lethal weapon. That's got nothing to do with the culture.
I'm actually agreeing with you, Linda. I'm saying that when he says his culture made him do it, that's a lie.
But then on that, so we were probably already going to be paying for this lot for the rest of their lives anyway. I mean, at no point in either of their two asylum claims did it make reference to them being a doctor or an engineer.
No.
And then they've committed these crimes. They've now got a criminal record, despite not being sent to prison. Oh, they're never going to get a job, are they? I mean, they are going to spend the rest of their lives on the dole in Britain.
Yeah, of course. And that is what Reform is trying to address with their recent policy announcement, which, again, people on the left have called racist, which is a nonsense. It's an insult to hard-working people in the UK who just want to have control of the borders and a sensible immigration policy. We need to actually stop this racist call-out, which Jonathan perpetuates, and instead look at the importance of culture and look at the importance of pragmatic policy.
See, it's interesting, because I thought it was a hallmark of snowflakery when you say that you're not allowed to say things. I'm sorry if it offends you when I call things out for what they are. Facts don't care about your feelings, Will.
Can I just say that anyone with a criminal record should just be sent back and should not be given leave to remain?
You can say
anyone with a criminal record. That's it. End of.
So the other aspect of this, Linda, I'll put this to you, is what are these judges doing? Like, I mean, you know, I would have thought if I went outside here tonight, smashed a glass bottle and then tried to shank a man with it several times, that I might go to prison. But apparently not. Don't do it, obviously.
That's what I mean. The guy with the broken bottle, he was charged with a slightly lesser crime because the injuries were less severe. Had the injuries been more severe, he'd have been tried for GBH. The sentence is much higher for that. I think in this case, the magistrate, and I think it may have been a magistrate in this case and not a judge, and obviously there is a difference, just looked at the sentencing guidelines and stuck to the rule book. But I am saying sometimes I think now we need to consider changing the rule book.
But also there is a small issue of prison overcrowding, which all parties have acknowledged, and so the answer has to be finding solutions other than carceral ones. Look, I'm not opposed to deporting people on principle, Patrick.
So
there are some people who shouldn't be in this country, and if there are safe places they can be returned to, they should be returned.
Would you deport these two, do you think?
I think it would have to be on a case-by-case basis, as I say.
Well,
what value do they have being here?
Well, look, I don't know
if
if these people are deemed worthy of being imprisoned, then they should be imprisoned and probably deported. Yes, but you know, if there are extenuating circumstances, I'm not here to act as a judge when I don't know the facts of each particular case.
What value do they have being here is the question. Why should they stay here? What's the positive benefit of them staying here?
Well, as you know, the asylum system is not based on a potential contribution that someone can bring to a country in the future. It's about the immediate persecution they might be facing back home. And as I say repeatedly, not everybody is going to be a legitimate asylum seeker. I don't think that economic migration is a bad thing either, but not everyone's going to fulfil the criteria of asylum.
Final word on this, Linda. This is why people are angry, isn't it? Because we've had these two cases today. I mean, there's another case wrapped up in that about the bloke who went outside to get some fish and chips and missed his sentencing.
I saw that.
Yeah, great. We also have the nephew of a Taliban commander who is allowed here now, along with 7 relatives who don't speak a word of English. This is why people are angry, I think.
I am told there were several members of the Taliban in an area west of London.
Lovely.
Members of the Taliban.
Brilliant.
Now, I will say this, there is a cultural difference.
OK, but the Afghan government is not the same as the people, and there are people throughout Afghanistan who bitterly oppose their government. So I think it would be wrong, just as you would find offensive if I said, well, you're part of the Labour Party. Not you personally, but Labour government is not the same as the British people.
I'm talking about... the Taliban is a much more broader term than that. There are Taliban fighters, ex-fighters, in parts of London, and frankly, we don't want them here.
I completely agree with you.
There was a bloke who was driving around with a number plate that just had Taliban. The number plate was Taliban.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway,